Hello again, it's Jimmy, and today we're in the junkyard with what I think is the most expensive junked vehicle we found to date. But first, if you like what you've been seeing, please do hit subscribe and like, and we'll keep making these. We feature cars, trucks, SUVs, vans, whatever, from all over the world, whatever's in the junkyard and whatever strikes our fancy. So this is a 1993 Mercedes-Benz W140 S600. 600 means 6-liter V12. This was the top of the line in the United States, beyond perhaps some AMG models, but just as far as pure Mercedes models go. And this was, the S-Klasse is obviously Mercedes' top model, and always has been. So this is cool. These came out, in the really early 90s. They were in development for basically a decade, since the early 80s. They did not have as much success. They were quite controversial, actually, at the time. They were obviously launched into a worldwide recession, which did not help things. And this particular one, the S600, started at $129,000 in 1993 before you added any options, which I think in today's dollars is about twice that. So about $250,000. And here it sits in the junkyard for us to take a look at. These were pretty interesting vehicles. They were huge. They're definitely big. They're still big. There's a lot of 1993 or early 90s cars that you think were big at the time, and nowadays they don't look that big anymore. All cars seem to have gotten larger, but this one, man, it's still big. So, and it, at the time it was just kind of considered a little too big, sort of bulbous, kind of weird looking. Just, it didn't hide its bulk well. It got facelifted a couple years later. They changed the way that the bumpers went and the lower cladding to make it kind of break up the big slab sides a little bit. But hey, you know what? If you wanted to say you've arrived, well, a big W140 S-Class, especially the S600, definitely did the business. So, let's take a look. Basically, it looks like most other Mercedeses. It's similar. There's obviously the family resemblance, just on a bigger scale, which is kind of hard to convey in video without one next to it that's smaller, but trust me, it's big. You had obviously the huge headlights in the front, large grille that someone here is painted black for whatever reason. You had the 3-point star, which is gone on this one. Here you've got the headlight still with the headlight wiper, which was always cool, something that a lot of European cars always did. This one's seen some damage, obviously, but man, look at these huge vented disc brakes here in the front. You've got, oh, is that interesting? Aluminum bogey shocks. Got the spring right there. Very large caliper, certainly for 1993. Then, you had the typical, obviously the Mercedes strap. Nice solid noise there. The back, this one's, oh man, listen to that. Wham! I can't get enough of that. Boom! But this one's obviously got some massive paint damage on it, but hey, that happens. It's, almost 30 years old now? And it's probably been not garaged for at least the last decade and a half. S600. Those are the numbers. Very cool. Large or larger than usual taillights with a white strip that went all the way across. Got the 3-point star back here. This was so big that these are little reversing guides. So this is in the day before you had the little bumper beeper things. So what happened here is you put it in reverse, and these they're like little antennas. They stick up about 2 to 3 inches. They come up so that you could look out the rear window and figure out where the corner of the car is. Very, very neat, and well, I guess definitely a little over the top, but it was one of those features that was different. So let's see. Well, I guess, here's the fuel filler. No, it won't open. Oh yeah, well, so that's just the. You'd think, I'm guessing you need premium unleaded on this, but it doesn't say so. There are a lot of interesting things on these cars, but let's take a look under the hood. This what was interesting is that Mercedes wasn't planning to do a V12 until BMW came out with the 750 V12 in the a few years before. So it kind of pushed Mercedes back to the drawing boards a bit, and they had developed the V12 and had to really change the car a lot to make sure that the engine actually fit into the engine bay here. The covers here are obviously gone, but that's kind of cool because we can see inside. We can see the chain sprockets. We can see I guess that's the oil pump chain down there. It's pretty interesting. You've got this obviously aluminum block here. Very neat. It's rare that you actually get to see one of these up close inside, right? Or it's rare you see one of these in general, but seeing it like this is even cooler. I mean, you gotta love a V12. There's nothing smoother. These were detuned slightly for this year, the 93s. So I believe it was about 394 horsepower, 392 or 394. And it's still about 420 pound-feet of torque, which was massive for the day. You just didn't see that. But, and interesting, it was still backed up to a 4-speed automatic transmission in 93. That didn't change until later. But yeah, everything's, I mean, it's tight in there, but it's not horrible. There's a lot of modern cars that seem to be even tighter packaged than this. But, you know, if you could afford this thing new, you weren't doing your own service. You were taking it in the entire time, every time. Not till this thing hits its 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, whatever owner, that it becomes kind of difficult to do the work on. But this is, man, this is a thick pad here. But very interesting. But yeah, let's, well, that was the engine, so, which is obviously the piece de resistance on this car, but very impressive. You don't see V12 Mercedeses in junkyard. You don't see V12 anything in junkyards very often. Jaguars, I think, are probably the ones you see most often. But let's look in the trunk since we're back here again. So you had a big trunk lid. You had this little flap that extended out when you unlocked it, and then it would go back in. But this one stuck out. You got a fully lined trunk lid here. The days of them just being painted black are long gone. And then nice carpeting, obviously the CD changer, which was common back then. Fuel tanks behind the rear seat. And then in here, fuse panel. Battery was back here for weight distribution. Full-size spare tire would have been down there. And what is this? That's nothing to do with this car. And just various bits of junk back here. But I mean, it still is all pre-LED era, so you had bulbs, but I mean, look at this. I mean, this taillight has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different bulbs in it. That's quite a few. Let's lower this again. And let's take a look inside this rig. So this is cool. This was one of the first cars to have double glazed side windows. So you actually have, this is a pane of glass, and then this is another pane of glass bonded to it. So extremely silent inside when the windows were up. And it's just huge. I mean, here's the door panel, had its own little fold down deep cubby. You had the famous Mercedes seat controls here, where you could up, down, forward, back, or you could just slide the cushion by itself here, then the back, then the headrest would go up and down. 3 memories. That's normal Mercedes. Down here you had another compartment, 2 speakers in the door. And let's look at this. Now look at this. I mean, this is just, I mean, this is huge. This whole thing is just bigger, larger than life, bigger than in most cars. And I remember that when these were first introduced and I saw the auto show. Then you had, let's see, how many miles on this? 147,566. So, well, if they were $129,000 new plus options, so this could easily have been a $150,000 car. That's $1 a mile before any kind of running costs. So that's unbelievable. oh yeah, premium unleaded fuel only, says so right on the fuel gauge. Then you had a miles per gallon gauge, which I can't believe that it would ever read particularly high. Temperature gauge, 160 mile an hour speedometer, RPM gauge, and a clock. Keys over here on the dashboard, not the column. Very nice. Obviously the light switch is here. This is, I believe it's to raise and lower the steering wheel. Then you had the wipers and turn signal, cruise control on a separate stalk, and that's it for that. Very large seats with, I'm assuming that's heat, 0 through 5. Comfortable, big, large sunroof over there. Center compartment with nothing below it actually, just a wood panel. And you had the automatic, you had the controller for the rear antenna. And then you could, this is a cool button. You hit this button and the rear headrests would pop down, or in this case, go back up, which is interesting. On the W140, you can get them to go down, but you have to raise them manually. But on this, the reason for that is so that you could back up easier and see your little backup guides. So, and if there's people riding back there and you hit that, it freaks them out, let me tell you. Dual zone automatic climate control. You had a million different vents here. And you had a little glove box compartment up there. And what's in here? Just a little connector. And then the other glove box was down there, which had its own little shelf in there for a little cup holder. So that's pretty cool, huh? Didn't see that very often back then. That's nicely done. And then this, the passengers obviously had their own full seat control, so they could be comfortable as well. And obviously for this price level, that's what you expect. The strawberry flavor little tree was not an option, but that's an aftermarket accessory, obviously. Oop, I just popped that out. And you have the various sunroof controls. Get your car so big, you got your own little map lights here. And then obviously the vanity light here. And let's take a look in the back. Close this again. Oh yeah, look at that. There's a giant door. This is the long wheelbase model, obviously. And nice door pockets. You had separate heat, so you could have actually a different climate than what the front passengers had, which was neat. And then, oh yeah, what was up here? This is cool. You have your own vanity mirrors up here in the S-Klasse, especially the 600, which was neat for the backseat passengers. And then obviously lots of lighting, reading lights, map lights, what have you. And then back here, the typical Mercedes compartments, and then multiple speakers on each side. So it's 1, 2, and then there's another couple over there. All just, I mean, beautifully trimmed, gorgeous woven or knitted fabrics here. Nice leather. Not bad. This is quite the machine, I gotta say. But yeah, like I said earlier, if you liked what you saw, please do subscribe. The little icon should be in the upper left-hand corner. And if you like what you saw, please hit like too. If you have any comments or questions or whatever, please pose those in the comments, and I'll get to them sooner or later. And but that's it. Thank you very much for joining us to check out the 1993 Mercedes S600 V12. Thank you. Bye-bye.